faces. My name is Britt Culey. I am owner and executive pastry chef of Coquette Pâtisserie. We are a French pastry business based in Cleveland Heights, and today we are bringing you the French macaron. If you were looking to learn about the coconut cookie, not going to happen today. So beware, we are working with almond flour meringues filled with a buttercream and ganache filling. Something a little bit different. Just to give you a little history on the macaron, it did go from Italy to France in the 1500s as just a little individual cookie. And then in the mid-1700s, during the French Revolution, two nuns started making those individual cookies for a bake sale, and they became known as the Macaron sisters. And then fast forward about 200 years, brings us to the 1900s with the renowned pastry shop La Durée in France, and they redefined the French macaron by taking two of those cookies and smashing them together with a wonderful creamy filling that enhanced the texture and the flavor and just brought the macaron into today, which is 2010, which you are in Cleveland, Ohio, and you get them here. So I am going to teach you, sound effects. I am going to teach you a few secrets. These are tricky to make. It took me a long time to figure it out. I'm going to give you my secrets, what I went through, so that it makes it easier on you to make them at home in your own kitchen. Basically, the macaron, having the almond flour cookie and the buttercream filling, start with the same base. So it's a double whammy. You do the first part and you already have your components pretty much for the next two rounds. So we start with what is called an Italian meringue. There are three different types of meringue, so don't get it confused with Swiss or French. This is the Italian. It is the most stable of all three meringues because the eggs are fully cooked. So I don't have a chance to make it on stage here because we don't have fire. We need fire for this. But what went into this is just sugar and egg whites. We started with some egg whites. Actually, it's 2 parts sugar to 1 part egg whites. In this bowl, we have 375 grams of Italian meringue. In this bowl, we have 300 grams of meringue. So this is for buttercream, this is for the macaron shell. The 2 parts sugar is combined with a little bit of water to just dissolve it a little bit, and it's put in a pot, and then it's put on the stove and brought to a boil. We actually use a candy thermometer for this, which you can find in any store, even the grocery store carries them. And we take the sugar mixture up to 240 degrees Fahrenheit, which is considered softball stage. At that point, we pour it slowly into whipped egg whites, which we had going beforehand, in a steady stream down the side of the bowl. That's going to temper that sugar into that egg white mixture, and it's going to make what we call our Italian meringue. It's actually going to cook the egg whites during that process, and it's going to become the most stable of the meringues. It's going to look like this when it's done, and you're going to be able to do this if done correctly. If it's running on you, you gotta start over. No fun. So, how much do we have here? 375. That's what we're starting off with. In this bowl, we have tante potente, also known as TPT. In all French kitchens, this is a staple. It's just like your flour or like your sugar. TPT, tante potente, is equal parts powdered sugar and almond flour. So here we have, here we have 500 grams of TPT, which means there are 250 grams of powdered sugar and 250 grams of almond flour. We've actually ground up our almond flour even finer so that it's nice and soft and smooth texturally, just like our powdered sugar. That's going to give us a beautiful crust on our cookies, which is going to be shiny and smooth. We don't want any lumps and granular messes. Yeah. It's all about texture with this cookie, I tell you. So, with our TPT, we're actually going to take this and we're going to mix in a little bit of egg white first. I have 90 grams of egg whites here. We're going to mix this in, and it's actually going to become a mixture similar to marzipan. Who here likes marzipan? I am obsessed with marzipan. I agree. So you can actually find online a number of macaron recipes that actually start out with marzipan, and then you add in the meringue to that. Here we're going to kind of make our own, actually. making our own mainly because I get to regulate the consistency and the texture of it. We want it to be really stiff, but a little bit moist. With French macarons, when you're baking the cookie part, they are so finicky. How many of you have tried them in your home kitchens? Anybody attempted? Beware, let me tell you. They are so finicky, I actually close all my windows and doors and regulate my kitchen temperature and humidity. I turn that dehumidifier on constant and I wait till it gets below 20% humidity in my home. Then I turn my temperature down. I like it between 60 and 70 degrees. This is imperative. If it's too humid out, if it's raining outside, oh, just don't even bother that day. Just put it aside, do it another day. It's so finicky because to get that beautiful crust on your macaron shells, you want them to sit for a little while at room temperature so that egg whites naturally want to dry out. If you've ever been baking and some egg whites get on the counter, did you ever find that they dry out and get crusty? That's actually that same process is going to form that beautiful shell on our cookies. And you won't get that if it's raining outside. If there's humidity in your kitchen, it's just never going to happen for you. Forming that shell at the same time when it's sitting or resting is also imperative so that you form, when it bakes, it actually forms these beautiful feet, is what they're called. I'll show you on our finished product. Macarons, when they bake off, they rise up. Just like we're standing up, rise up and sit up on their little feet. And that is a definite sign of a good macaron. If you don't have the feet, it's not going to make it into your mouth. Here we go. This is our marzipan consistency here. Same components that go into marzipan, like I said. And this is where you get to play with it a little bit. If you wanted to add colors, traditional French macarons, whatever color they are, you can kind of assume that the flavor inside is going to be like that. So over here on our samples, I don't know if you can see it. Nope. And the samples that we'll be passing out in a little bit, we have pink ones, which indicate that they are actually lingonberry. Anybody know what a lingonberry is? Yeah. Scandinavian berry, which can be grown here in Cleveland, Ohio, similar conditions. And it is flavor-wise a cross between a currant and kind of like a cranberry, kind of sweet like a raspberry. It's actually of the blueberry family though, one of my favorites. So that's the pink one. The green one is pistachio. What else do we have over there? We have a yellowy one, which is mango. And we have blue ones, which are blueberry. Go figure. So, this is where you would add your food coloring if you choose to go that route. We're going to do just naked little berry ones here today. So, these, you would add 4 grams of food coloring, depending upon what color you were going to make your final product. So, we have our 500 grams of TPT, our 90 grams of egg whites, 4 grams of food coloring if you like. How much here? $3.75. We're going to fold in this meringue. We want to do it in stages though, because we want to get the most air out of it. So I'm going to just start with about a third of it. And I'm actually going to kind of fold this in kind of hard because we really want it to get combined. Being that this marzipan base is really stiff, if we tried to fold it in all at once, we'd lose almost all of the air that is making it so light and fluffy. So we start with just a little bit to lighten it. And you can see it's pretty stiff. You will get a workout from this, let me tell you. I had a friend that wanted to arm wrestle me and I said, do you know what I do every day? I won. So we're getting this well combined in here. And that's about there. At this point we can add in the remainder. But we're going to use a lot lighter folding technique to make sure that we keep all of that air in there. There we go. So traditional folding technique, if you are right-handed, left hand at 9 o'clock on the bowl, hold your spatula flat, parallel to your table, go from 3 o'clock to 9 o'clock, back over to 3 o'clock. I'm gonna turn my bowl counterclockwise. This is gonna keep you from rotating that wrist. You're gonna get carpal tunnel really fast if you go that route. And you'll last a lot longer as well. You'll have a lot more stamina. Here we go. The final consistency that we want this batter to be is what is described as molten lava. I don't know. I can't say I've ever seen molten lava up close. Anybody? No. But I do have a slight fascination with volcanoes. So, watching the History Channel, National Geographic, anything like that, imagine molten lava and this is what you get. Alright, you're right about there. You don't want to overfold. If you do so, your meringues, your macaron bases, they won't rise up and retain that air. So this is our molten lava. Alright, next step. Imperative of baking perfect macarons is how you actually pipe them out onto your sheet pan. You want everything to be perfectly even so that all that hot air circulating in your oven hits them all perfectly even and they get baked at the same rate. One way to do that is to make a template. I use a little ring cutter. If you don't have ring cutters at home, use glass. I noticed that this looks an awful lot like the size of champagne flute. Flip it upside down, tip it out, and then enjoy some champagne with macarons later. So I'm just going to use my ring, make a template, and this is going to ensure that all of my macarons are the same size and the same distance apart from each other so that that heat hits them evenly. Imagine a pinball machine and you have all those obstacles in the pinball machine and then you have your ball that you're shooting up there and it's doing its zigzag thing. Well, imagine the air being your ball and these macarons are all your obstacles. You want that ball to actually go through evenly and you want that air to go through evenly and hit all those obstacles evenly. You want them all dinging at the same time. You want to use this also, just this even placement, when you're making cookies, something as simple as that. It's really going to make a really big difference in your final product and ensure that all of your cookies and baked goods are baking properly. You don't want to pipe directly on this because that is a Sharpie. But to be sure that we can keep using it, we'll do that. You like that? Yes, because then afterwards we do the old tablecloth trick. We yank it out underneath and hooray that they all stay in place. Alright, another trick for your kitchen. If you are piping things, you have your tip, you have your bag. How do you keep it from coming out the bottom? Because that gets really messy fast. Twist it, really, really taut, and then stick it in the center. Look at that. You can even use a cup to stick it down in if you'd like it to hold steady. Let's fill this guy up. Alright. Not too full. If you fill it too full, it's just going to come out the back end on you, and that's just going to make a big old mess. We like to keep our kitchens neat, nice and clean. Alright. Before I pipe, I'm going to give it a light spray. I don't want to use too much. If you use too much, your macarons, when you're piping them, they're going to ooze on it, just kind of like sliding on grease. I just want to do a light coating because when the macarons are finished, they actually are really chewy in the center, and sometimes that can stick to your parchment. Always use parchment. If not, you can also use silpats. Those work fabulously. Just a light coating. And when piping these, you want to keep your tip at perfectly 90 degrees perpendicular to your tabletop. You also want to keep it above your sheet pan. You don't actually want to touch your tip to your sheet pan. Keep it about 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch up. We're keeping it perfectly perpendicular, and you're going to pipe just straight down and hold it steady. We want this batter to come oozing out the sides evenly and make perfectly little on. You want it to look like little marshmallows or little snow cone hats there. See them? There you go. So after you pipe out an entire sheet, this recipe that I'm reiterating is actually going to make about 35 final individual size macarons, which is actually going to be 70 halves. So make sure you have enough sheet pans to work on. I can get about 30 to 35 halves on one sheet pan, just to give you an idea. I'm going to stop there though. No need to sit and watch me pipe forever. So, next, the old tablecloth trick. When you do it, make sure you hold the corner, the top one. Yeah. I'll keep it from going anywhere. Next step, we want to get all those little air bubbles that form. We don't want to get rid of all the air. This is pretty stable at this point, but we want to get the little air bubbles that form out so that when these bake up, they don't explode like little volcanoes on top. See, volcanoes again. That molten lava and volcano. So I'm going to give it a couple taps. You can see, I don't know if you guys can see up there, but there's little air bubbles that are actually coming out. This is also going to flatten out any little dimple that you may have made in piping on the top. And at this point, I don't know if you can see these, but they're looking lovely. We are going to let these sit at room temperature in our regulated kitchens for 30 minutes to 2 hours. You're going to walk away, do dishes, do whatever you have to do. This is where we want to form that crust that I was talking about. We want those egg whites to do their thing and dry out a little bit. So letting these sit out for about 30 minutes plus, and I say 30 minutes to 2 hours because every kitchen is different. If you don't have a dehumidifier, and it's better not be raining outside, then it is going to take a little bit longer. But if you have your humidity down at 20%, then it actually will be okay. 30 minutes should do the trick. We want this nice crust to form on top, and you'll know it when you see it because right now if I touch this, it's gooey. If that crust has formed, it's going to be silky smooth and satiny. You'll know it. When it does get to that point though, and your crust has formed, we're going to put these in a 300-degree oven for 12 minutes. Rotate them after 12 minutes and do another 10 minutes. At that point, there you go, done. And when they're done, magic. Voila! And they come out different colors. Here we have them. So what I was talking about is that satiny smooth top. We have these little feet. It's a little rough around the edges where this shell has risen up and baked up. Mostly flat and uniform, round, mostly the same size, if using our template. So at this point, we need to make our fillings. And to make our fillings, we use our Italian meringue base. And how much is in here? 300. So Italian buttercream is actually really simple. We start with that Italian meringue and we just add butter. And that's it. And it's really delicious. So we have 300 grams here. And I'm going to add a paddle attachment. You can use a hand mixer if you'd like. That works just as well. And I'm going to turn this on. There we go. Keep it on a low speed. I have 500 grams of butter here. I actually use European butter for my buttercream because it has a whiter consistency and a very rich flavor. I use local butter for everything else except my buttercream because I want that color to stand out. So I'm just going to add, this is pre-softened to be similar in consistency to our Italian meringue. You don't want to put in cold butter because it's just going to be like chunky meringue then. And you're going to be eating chunks of butter. So we have this nice smooth butter. We're going to add it in a little bit at a time. You can do so many things with Italian buttercream. I mean, in addition to filling macarons with it, icing cakes. This is actually the main icing other than fondant that people use to ice cakes. It's really stable. I mean, don't go sit it outside in 90 degrees, you know, but this will hold up in a lot of different temperatures. Let's see here. When we get it all in and it's nice and smooth, we're actually just going to add a pinch of salt. I add salt to almost everything that I bake. Salt, just like in cooking, it's a flavor enhancer. It rounds out all of the flavors and brings everything together. That's weird. All right. That's all in. I'm just going to turn it up a little bit. There we go. Here's my salt. You can use anything from, if you're using table salt, just use a little less. I use sea salt for a lot of my pastries. I just prefer it. There we go. And now we're going to do our flavoring agent. You can add whatever you want to buttercream. You can put in cocoa powder to make it chocolate. You can even add melted chocolate to make it chocolate. You can just put in a little bit of vanilla extract to make it a delicious vanilla buttercream, really rich. Any sort of extracts. I like to use fruit purees for all of my macarons. So here we have some raspberry puree. You can really do anything. And here we have, which I'll be filling, is also a maple bourbon buttercream, which I reduced bourbon down to a syrupy consistency and added maple syrup, and then I just poured it in my buttercream. So easy. Do whatever you want. So I'm going to slowly add this, and you actually just add as much as you like till it's at the flavor the flavor profile that you're looking for. Now, this is my favorite part. I don't know if you can see this up there, but this looks absolutely horrible in here. Like really disgusting. See this? It's all curdly and gross. This is where I bring out my secret weapon. Not to fear. Because we have a blowtorch. This is the best tool in the whole kitchen. It makes me feel empowered. It's kind of like when I bought my first power drill. Nothing quite like it. Now, if you're going to do this at home, please read all of the warnings and everything on your blowtorch, and you don't have to go this route. I just like to. It's quick and easy for me. Another option would be to start a hot water bath on your stove. A bain-marie, just some boiling water in a pot. What we want to do ultimately is heat this mixture up so that both ingredients, I added a bunch of liquid to a bunch of fat. Fat and liquid don't like each other, so they're separated. So I need to get those two to the same temperature so that they recombine. So I'm using the blowtorch. You can use a water bath or attempt a blowtorch. Don't go rummaging through the tool shed though just to find one and scare anybody. But this is going to bring this back together with just a couple turns of it. If you use the hot water bath, literally just take your bowl off your mixer, stick it on that hot water bath, and stir constantly with either a spatula or a wooden spoon of some sort. It'll start to melt a little bit on the sides, which is fine. That just means that it's coming to the same temperature. And you will know when it's done because it won't look like cottage cheese anymore. It'll look nice and smooth and creamy. And that's what we're going to get this to. While I'm working on this, Becky, would you like to start passing out the samples? Again, we have pistachio, lingonberry, mango, blueberry. Oh, I forgot. My favorite. The brown ones with a little dust on top, those are spicy Mexican chocolate. So they have a little kick in them. And then we will be passing these out afterwards as well. They are going to be raspberry, maple bourbon, and chocolate. There we go. Also, blowtorch in the kitchen, watch out where you're aiming it. You don't want your cabinet laminates to like start melting off or anything like that. All right. cooking just like magic. Look at that. Beautiful. All right, so we're in the running stretch here. We're gonna use this buttercream and we're gonna fill up these pink ones. I have chocolate ganache because not all macarons need to be filled with buttercream. They just need something smooth and creamy. So we have chocolate ganache, which is a chocolate and cream mixture set with a little butter. And then the last one is buttercream as well, though. You can use even jam if you'd like, something just to counter that crunchiness and chewiness of the cookie part. Again, I did my tip, my bag and my tip so that it doesn't leak out on me. There we go. And when filling these, I know like buttercream, it tastes delicious, the more the better. But really you want to kind of keep it to a minimum. You want to fill it just enough so that when you squeeze the two cookies together, it just oozes out to the edges just slightly. If you overfill it, it's going to get all messy. When you try and take a bite, it's going to squirt out everywhere. If you fill it too little, you're just not going to get that flavor that you want. So you really want to just fill the perfect amount, I should say. What's the perfect amount? Well, you'll determine that when you're making them. So I would say take your cookie and just pipe a little ring around it. There you go. Regulate your kitchen, and if it's raining outside, don't even bother. Number 2, you want to make sure that your template is all even. That really is imperative in even cooking. Number 3, don't overfold. Don't overfold anything. Yeah. Number 4, if you attempt a blowtorch, just be careful. And number 5, have fun with it. Play around, add flavors, do whatever you like. All right, so good luck. Anybody have any questions? I'll actually come